and I am recording to this computer. So everybody look your nicest, smile. There you go. Good smiles across the spectrum. Yeah. Now everybody will just turn on their profile picture. Kill their
I want to see real faces.
Well, I like to see real faces too, but okay. So I don't want anybody counting the hairs in Chris's nose.
Oh, that's messed up, Mike.
It started here. I'm going to do a screen share and we'll get back over here to where we need to be. That'll work. So we are currently over here in the summary. And you've seen this document before. This is the one that is, admit. I don't know why everybody's having to get into the waiting room. I'll try and stop that. I don't see a way at the moment to do anything about it, so I'm sorry. Anyway, I'll admit everybody as they come in. That's not a problem. Now everybody's coming back in. So we are up to 15. And we're good. Okay, so we're a little short. A few people maybe didn't make it back in. Let's get started though. On the offer to purchase and contract, you'll notice it's number 1 because it's the most important. Now, if you scroll down through here, oh my gosh, there's a lot of changes. Don't worry, we're not going to hit all those. Some of them are just format changes. Some of them are self-explanatory. The new amendments that were issued, there's no link out to those, like the offer to purchase and contract worksheet. I'm looking, we did post this one up to .loop, and I'm anxious to hear what you think about it because it's a way to compare multiple offers. But we had previously given one of those to you, and I think, Judy, you probably have one. A lot of agents have their own means of comparing multiple offers, but so I won't do anything and basic with that, but just know it's out there. It's with the .loop documents on the buy side in those folders. So, okay, we're going to get started here first of all with the, get her all the way back up here to the offer to purchase. So when you pull it up, you pull up the offer to purchase, and I'll enlarge it once it comes up so you can see it better. Let me move this over so I can see the plus over here. Can everybody read it now?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go through the changes. Let me get my notes. Okay. And basically, you can do this too. This is no more than you would be doing. I do have some insight on the reasons why that the Forms Committee did this. I know a couple of the realtors that serve on it, and they kind of clue me in occasionally. But you'll note the first change comes in paragraph 1. And it's a new note. Let me get back up here to paragraph 1. And that one is the one that says that definition of settlement date, 1L. Scroll down to 1L. And you'll see settlement date. This is where this box is. See paragraph 12, delay in settlement / closing for conditions under which settlement may be delayed. This is what happened on this one. They want to bring the attention to all the parties the fact that settlement may be delayed. This is often overlooked, and then suddenly we get down to we're supposed to close, and the buyer announces or their agent announces that, well, we're going to have to be delayed because, and Judy, you and Angie and I just went through this. It's just a reminder in advance, so they know that there's a clause in the contract that deals with that. I have more issues over delays and closing probably than anything else. And they should have made this in red letters and, and flashing lights in my book, because it's often overlooked, and the buyer or the seller doesn't remember the fact that there was a clause that will permit them under certain circumstances to delay closing. All right, that's the first change. In paragraph 2, going down here at paragraph 2, here the yellow and the strike throughs. There's a new warning added to stress the importance of addressing in the contract what items will be included or excluded from the sale. Okay. That warning, the party should not assume that an item will or will not be included. What would what would you think this what would this have to do with? Assuming that an item will or will not be included.
Refrigerators.
What's that?
Refrigerators, maybe?
We're going to come to that. I won't go to fixtures yet, but we've got fixtures covered too.
I mean, smart controls, smart homes.
Yeah, it's basically they're pointing out the fact that basically don't just because you saw it lying on the counter doesn't mean it's going to stay. We had an issue not long ago over a doggone microwave. They built in under the cabinet a wooden, a structure to hold the microwave. Well, they moved. They took it out. Well, no, that was attached, not the microwave. That was an appliance. It was just we built a box to form fit around our microwave. And the buyers can't find another one that will fit in that box, basically. So basically, it's a good thing you took it with you because it's only for you. So this is just a warning, basically, just because you see it there. Now, the next change comes in subparagraph B down here. Okay, note the change in the language. Buyer and seller agree that the following items shall be included in the sale as part of the purchase price, free of liens. Can't be leased, free of liens, unless excluded in subparagraph D or E below. All items listed below include both traditional and smart versions, smart controls, and any exclusively dedicated related equipment and or remote control devices. That's a lot of words. So if you've got you're leaving the TV, that includes the remote control. If you are leaving your alarm system and it has a remote, because most Wi-Fi alarm systems come with a remote, you've got to leave that remote I've heard the argument, but you can access it via your phone. Yes, you can, but there was a remote that needs to stay unless you otherwise specify. So we're getting into the age when houses are getting smarter and we have to take into account what's necessary there. Now, if you'll note here under fuel tanks, this is a big one. And I realize we don't run into this that much. But in this change, state law provides that it is unlawful for any person other than a supplier or owner of a fuel supply tank to disconnect, interrupt, or fill the supply tank with liquefied petroleum gas, propane, LP gas, or propane without the consent of the supplier. We don't have enough of that, except when you get out in the rural areas, you've got a lot of propane. But we don't have enough of that to really account for our business unless you get up into northern Iredell, Rowan County, parts of Catawba County. You will run into a lot of propane up there. You have to have the original supplier either come get their tank, and there may be a charge for that, but that's going to be addressed later, and fill that's their tank. It doesn't belong to the homeowner. It may have been there for 20 years, but it still belongs to the company that provided the tank. In subparagraph B, okay, let's go back to this just a second because I want to note something here. It's assumed that smart devices will be included as a part of the sale unless specifically excluded. Okay. I have a garage door that has a garage door opener, but I can also open it from my phone because my garage door is part of my Wi-Fi system. In fact, the damn thing's pretty smart. And I can, basically, I don't have to have that. I don't even know where that remote is, to tell you the truth. Because I open it either with my phone or I just walk up to it if I'm not getting my car. We don't park our cars in the garage anyway. And I just use the keypad. But that smart control, before we sell our house, I've got to go find it because it goes with the house. Note there's some strike throughs here, noting just for clarification purposes, thermostats. Be sure if you've got remote controls for thermostats, they've got to stay. We have a thermostat in our house. You can control by your phone. And again, I'm not sure. My wife may know where that remote control is, but I sure don't. So just be aware of that. As houses get smarter, there are going to be more and more changes. All right. Next one, change in the OTP. Let's go to paragraph 20. Before we go, I want to mention this change right here. And this is important. Remind your sellers of this, and because the buyers aren't going to do it. Unpairing and deleted data from devices. Unpairing. Does everybody know what pairing is when you're using NFC, near field communication, or using Wi-Fi? Basically, you need to unpair your devices. Now, the buyer can come in and pair their device to it, but why should the seller unpair their device before they leave?
It's not their home anymore.
It's not their home anymore, first of all. Secondly, what's the most important reason, though? It tells you right here.
You can see personal data and information or the people.
Absolutely. It's got everything in there. Your logins, you can go to the log file, you can see everything for probably years past. When people came and went and so forth. Not a good idea to leave that information out there in the wild. So basically, that's the good advice there. Any questions so far? Questions. Note in number 3, personal property. New sentence was added to existing note to stress the importance of identifying in the contract any personal property that will be excluded or included in the sale. Let's go down to paragraph 9 if there's no questions. Paragraph 9. See, we're almost through with this one. If we ever get there. All right. Prorations and adjustments. In paragraph 9, the word provided changed to agreed to clarify that the parties may agree to prorations of real estate taxes, rents, and dues that are different from those set forth in paragraph 9. How do we calculate taxes on a property?
In arrears.
Your guys should remember this one from pre-license. How do we calculate the prorated taxes?
The date of close?
Sorry?
To the date of close?
To the date of closing, right.
Oh, yeah.
We prorate to the date of closing. But let's say that for some reason, I don't want to give you $500, but I will pay your taxes for the rest of the year. And that's worth more than $500. That's probably closer to $1,000. Why would I do that? Why would I agree to pay the buyer's taxes for the entire year, mine and his included?
Maybe your tax bill's already been paid, so it's not more money coming out of your pocket.
Might be. I paid it in advance, basically, because taxes are billed in arrears. But you can pay them in advance, by the way. Mecklenburg County will even give you like 4% interest on your money. But what would be a good reason for me to agree to pay somebody's property taxes?
Can write it off on my taxes.
There you go. I want a tax deduction for those property taxes.
Wow.
And so I can afford to pay more than $500 because by the time I get the tax write-off, I'm down to maybe $300 or $400 amount. So just because we always break it up evenly based on the number of days each party occupied the house does not mean that that's the way it has to be done. And in commercial property, this is done all commercial transactions. This is done all the time. Okay. Any questions on the OTP? Okay. Oh, let's go down to paragraph 20. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm looking next addendum. Conduct of transaction. Okay. If, according to the buyer's agent email program, a notice of termination contract was sent to the listing agent at 4:59 p.m. 4:59 p.m. on the last day of the due diligence period, but according to the listing agent's email program, the email was received at 5:01 p.m. Was the termination notice delivered at 4:59 or 5:01?
4:59.
59.
Why 4:59? Why, Bill? Why would you say 4:59?
I think they just clarified that that's based on the sent instead of the received.
Right. It's all based on the sent. I'm jacking up your sound here a little bit so everybody can be recorded on the video. I had this discussion. Maggie is doing a backup contract on a $900,000 house and 3 acres in South Charlotte. And in the backup, we'll get to the changes in the backup contract. But as I was reinforcing to her yesterday, you have to, that email is date and time stamped. That is when you sent it. You don't have the email address or access to the seller. So basically, you're accessing the seller's agent. And the seller's agent, basically, the court will refer back to the date and timestamp on when you sent the electronic communication, not when it was received, because God knows she may be out of town or slow in responding to email and not get to it for days, maybe weeks. And so this is the best change they made to the OTP. Is basically there's no more confusion over this. We go by the time and date stamp in your email program, and virtually every one of them has that, and you cannot turn it off. So that's a great change to the OTP. Any questions about that? Well, we're done with the OTP. Let's go to, let me move you guys around a little bit here so I can see my screen. Let's get on down here. And we're going to skip the guidelines and the offer to purchase and contract. Vacant land is the same basically as the regular OTP. And the guidelines for the vacant land we're going to skip too. But we are going to stop here on the backup contract addendum because there was significant change made there. Okay, go down here to where the change is. The backup contract addendum in paragraph 8, wording change to clarify that the seller must deliver both written notice that the backup contract has become primary and documentation that the primary contract has been terminated in order to constitute delivery of notice of primary status. Okay, both. So what is the documentation that you'll have to use that the primary contract has been terminated?
An executed termination.
Termination of contract. You'll have to send over the termination of contract. Well, I don't want to do that because that will share the buyer's name. Who cares? They've broken. They're walking away. They've voided the contract. Doesn't matter at that point in time. You've already negotiated the backup. So basically, this is a clarification that was long overdue. How do we know that you walked away? I don't want to go in here and we get into a lawsuit later on about who actually is buying the house. And there was a problem. We've had that incidents happen, by the way, within the company. Not here, thank you. So basically, your notice of, you want to send an email notification that you are now primary because the first buyer, the primary contract has been voided. And along with it, send a copy of the termination of contract. And it's signed by both buyer and seller. So you know that you are primary. Any questions about that? It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I'm listening to it in my phone.
Okay. Now, the next change is in paragraph 9. And there's a wording difference here, between the explanation. I got an email in right now trying to get clarification on this. The wording in subparagraph 9A changed to clarify that the due diligence fee is due upon delivery of notice of primary status, rather than 5 days after delivery of such notice. Rather than 5 days after delivery of such notice, and must be paid, and here's the conflict, within 3 days rather than 5 days thereafter. You used to have 10 days. Now the contract says 2 days. All right, I'm going to go with what the contract says, what the backup addendum says, 2 days. Due diligence fee, any due diligence fee provided for in this contract shall be due and payable to seller upon delivery to buyer of notice of primary status and delivered within 2 days thereafter. Doesn't say 2 business days, it says 2 days thereafter. All right, we're going with what the contract says, even though I've asked, but the explanation says 3, but the contract says 2. So there was obviously a last minute change. I don't think that's a typo. So 2 days. Any questions about the backup contract? Okay, if none, we're going to move right along. We're going to skip the lead-based paint. Let's see. You know what? I need to, we're going to look at the lead-based paint addendum. This has been a conflict in the past. We don't have it up here because in Lake Norman, we don't have a lot of houses with lead-based paint. Yeah, you can get out into Denver and other areas, populated areas, you run into it quite often. But the change that they made was down here underneath the acknowledgement in B. I'll make sure I got it right. So there wasn't any other change. That's right. It's just that one. Okay. Changes made to subsection C to make it clear that the buyer is acknowledging receipt of both the seller's statement in subsection A, okay, regarding the seller's knowledge of the presence of lead-based paint or lead-based paint hazards in the housing and any available records and reports described in subsection B. There has been some confusion about whether the buyer should insert their initials in the blank appearing to the left of the acknowledgement in subsection C in situations where there were no available reports. No available reports. Federal lead-based paint rules require the buyer to acknowledge receipt of both the seller's statement and any available reports. And it is hoped that this change will hopefully help clarify the need for the buyer to insert their initials in subsection C, whether or not there are any available reports. Is that perfectly murky enough for you? I mean, the intent was good. The outcome is not so good. I know what the intent was, but they didn't get there. So the language has been changed in C to say acknowledge receipt of seller statement set forth in A above, appears A, presence of lead-based paint and your lead-based paint hazard, check 1 below. No, seller has no knowledge. Records and reports available. Seller has no reports. Basically scrap all that language. Get rid of A, B, and just basically go with, do you have a report? Do you know? Yes or no? It's just wording, that's all. No big changes there. No real changes. These short paragraphs, as you can see, no real great changes are involved in those. On the additional provisions, it added pool and spa inspection, which is good. They needed to put that in there because we're seeing more outdoor pools, these swim things they put in the ground or above ground, basically. Those need to be checked. So the wording has been added. Let's go down to the listing agreement, the exclusive right to sell, and there have been significant changes made there. Okay. The first one up here at the top, consult guidelines, Form 101G for guidance in completing this form. This was added to remind realtors that there is an explanation form to help answer questions. All right, I keep it on my desktop. I keep the explanation form for the OTP, for the compensation to agent, several forms on my desktop. Because if I have a question, I can't, let me look and see, basically get clarification there first. So they're just reminding agents here, basically, there is a place to go for help in that regard. Now, let's go to paragraph 1C, where the change occurred. And notice here, it's no longer midnight, it's 11:59. Now, why, here's a really great question. Why is it 11:59?
Because it's still the same day.
You said 12 a.m. is the
What
next
denotes
day.
it as being the same day?
The time. Instead
Well, what's
of
going to
12,
happen
it's
at midnight?
changes
It's the
day.
next day.
Changing days. We're going from PM to AM. Again, why this was never called, it's been midnight for 20 years. Well, I won't say 20 years, probably 15. And suddenly somebody says midnight is the next day because that's now AM. So all these, you'll notice everything now will be 4:59, it will be 11:59, and so forth. And that's a good clarification. All right, shouldn't be any questions about that. Right before paragraph 3, they've added a notation here. The following paragraphs 3 and 4 are part of the offer to purchase and contract. Form 2T, a form which is commonly used to put residential real estate under contract in North Carolina to minimize the potential for disputes with a buyer. It is highly recommended that the seller and the individual agent who signs this agreement discuss in detail and describe in writing in paragraphs 3 and 4 what items seller is willing to convey. Remember, we talked about in the OTP having issues these days about what convey. And then what items the seller is willing to convey as part of any sale of the property, what items the seller would like to exclude from any sale, and what items located on the property that seller may not own. I would circle this with a red pen and say, please, Mr. Seller, please read this. All our homes today are filled with electronic stuff, all these gadgets. And basically, when you sell something, you've got to sell all the issues. Go down to, where's I at above that? Okay, paragraph 3. Paragraph 3 incorporates new wording and reformatting of fixtures and exclusions. Paragraph in the offer to purchase and contract. Warning, new warning added to stress the importance of addressing in the contract what items will be included in or excluded from the sale. Okay. And then if you look at subparagraph B, smart devices will be included as a part of the sale unless excluded. Unless, warn them about these electronic devices if they're going to go with the house. Okay. Any questions about that? Smart devices. And then we get down here and there's a new note here added under fuel tanks, reminding everybody you don't own it. Basically, don't be kind to carry it off. Now, what do you do about, let's say, but I just filled my LP tank and that bill was $600. That's my fuel. What do you do about that?
Negotiate it.
Would everybody agree we want to negotiate that?
No,
I'd go back to the supplying company and see if you can work something out.
You can see it's tied to, it's really quite well tied to the offer to purchase. So that everybody should be aware of this. Everybody on board. We have a lot of complaints and stuff. If you look at the complaint log, which is about 500 complaints right now, I'd say half of them deal with property that was taken away. And really the commission can't do much about that, but they hear it anyway, all the time. All right, let's go. If there's no more questions about the listing, any more questions about the listing agreement, because I'm ready to jump to something else. Well, before I do, I want to go to paragraph 10. Sorry. Make a note here on paragraph 10. Okay. On paragraph 9, defining the firm's duties, there is a box here that says this is what the firm is expected of the firm. This was long needed and was asked for because it says we operate within the code of ethics, the seller's approval in response to inquiries from buyers or cooperating real estate firms. This defines what we do. Disclose the existence of offers on the property. Where seller authorizes disclosure, firm shall also disclose whether offers were obtained by an individual agent who signs this agreement, another agent of the firm, or by a cooperating real estate firm. There seems to be some questions about agency and so forth. And this, I attribute this to a lack of knowledge in what agency is, both by the public and the real estate community. Now, under A, best efforts to find a buyer. Look at paragraph 9A. The existing wording has been broken down into separate subsections to assist in reading and comprehension of firm's duties. Okay, got that. The note box was moved up to the top of the paragraph. The seller initial blanks added at the end of paragraph to confirm that seller has been made aware of each duty listed in the paragraph. So basically, down here, individual agent initials and the seller's initials on page 4. Agreement, paragraph 10. I'm about to miss this. Disclosure, material terms of offer. Seller acknowledges that real estate brokers are prohibited by North Carolina's Real Estate Commission rule from disclosing the price of other material terms contained in a party's offer to purchase, sell, lease, rent, or option real property to a competing party without the express authority of the party making the offer. So just be aware that this is disclosure is becoming a big thing. Okay.
Mike, I've got a quick question.
Sure.
For an inexperienced new agent. So if I'm hosting open houses, which I did this weekend.
Yep.
Who am I representing?
Am
I representing the listing agent?
Yes, you are. You are there in place of the listing agent. You may say no more than would the listing agent if they were present. You are their mouthpiece while you're sitting in the open house.
If I do receive some information regarding motivation from a customer, price, I need to relay that information back to the listing agent.
Yes. Well, the answer is yes. There are no qualifiers for that. Basically, that's being both courteous, ethical, and doing the right thing. Yeah,
okay.
That's a good example right there. And then, but here again, there's at the point that you're at where you just meet someone, you're not far enough along as you would be in offering a backup contract.
Yes, right.
A backup addendum. There is the degree in the transaction. We start here, we birth it here, and we finish it here. And so basically, as we move along, there's a tendency, it gets tighter and tighter in terms of your ability to communicate confidential information. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's a timeline. Analogy would be a timeline that you're traveling upon. Okay. All right. Let's go to marketing. Paragraph 10 looks like a lot of changes. Actually, not so much. In paragraph 10, changes to paragraph in light of new clear cooperation policy previously approved by the Executive Committee of the National Association of Realtors. Okay. So in a lot of this, it negates the use of this, the existing language down here in the note. Submission to listing service. Firm shall submit pertinent information concerning the property to any listing service of which the firm is a member or in which any of firm's agents participate. In accordance with the rules of any such listing service, seller authorizes firm to furnish to the listing service notice of all changes of information concerning the property authorized in writing by seller upon execution of a sales contract for the property, to notify the listing service of the pending sale, the expiration date of any due diligence period, and upon closing of the sale to disseminate sales information, including sales price, to the listing service appraisers and real estate brokers. Let's go to, and that's the change there, the big change to A. Now let's look at B, because B used to be A, but that's new language. Now, commencement of marketing. The firm is authorized to commence marketing on the property as described in subparagraph C, which is below, subparagraph C below, okay? And below on the effective date, or if selected, got check boxes haven't changed, insert date only if applicable. This is the delayed marketing date. Okay, if a delayed marketing date is selected, there are two important dates in the listing agreement. What are they? What are the two important dates in the listing agreement?
Effective date.
Effective date, okay, that's when it legally became binding. Okay. Does it have anything to do with the marketing date?
Yes.
It might, but it might not. Doesn't necessarily have to represent the marketing date unless you want to make it simultaneous. Okay. If you don't want to make it simultaneous, as is checked in this box right here, this tick box, excuse me, try to get my cursor over there. Insert date. This is your marketing date. The marketing date is important To whom?
MLS.
The commission.
To when do I have to put my listing into MLS?
MLS.
MLS.
On the marketing date.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Otherwise, if the two are simultaneous, I have 1 day, 24 hours to get it into MLS. Used to be we had 2. Now we got 1. Okay. If a delayed marketing date is selected, seller understands and acknowledges that the listing service, this is listing service rules may prohibit the property being previewed or shown by seller. Oh, wait a minute, I can't show it myself? That's right. But the neighbor wants to see it. Well, he better come by tonight because he can't. Once we go into marketing, once our delayed marketing date is set, we can't, once I sign this agreement, you can't be showing it to the neighbor. Sales information, price, listing service, so let's go. Commencement of marketing, we were down here. May prohibit any public marketing of the property before the delayed marketing date, except as may be permitted under and coming soon. So now we don't need the coming soon addendum anymore because it's specified in the listing agreement. Advertising in subparagraph C below. Public marketing includes, definition of public marketing, includes but is not limited to flyers displayed in windows, yard signs, digital marketing on public-facing websites, brokerage website displays including IDX and VOW, digital communications, marketing, email blasts, multi-brokerage listing sharing networks, and applications available to the general public. Firm is obligated to present to seller any offers on the property that may be submitted to firm prior to the delayed marketing date. Can you buy a house sight unseen? Happens all the time. We're selling houses sight unseen.
I have one.
Yeah, you have
Right
one.
now.
Judy, you have one? Oh, good.
Montana. They're moving from Montana here.
You and I talked about this one on the phone. Bought the house sight unseen, but now they're going. There's a due diligence period.
Yeah, and we're
And they
done
can
with
walk
that.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, we're already done with that, and
Okay.
but they're not coming till the day before closing.
So they chose not to come and see the house. They're just going to buy it.
They have a son that came and looked.
Very good. That's fine. That is fine. Note the existing language has been taken out, and note here it says now it is in the best interest of most sellers to get the highest possible price on the best terms for their property, and maximizing exposure of their property advances that interest. Accepting an offer on the property before it is fully exposed to the widest group of potential buyers may deny seller the best opportunity to attract offers at the highest price and terms. Does everybody believe that? Well, if you do, why do we have firm exclusive listings? Why do we have coming soon? I mean, well, coming soon is kind of a delayed exposure to the marketplace. But why would you want to do coming soon if, in fact, your best opportunity to attract buyers at the highest price and best terms is to put it the widest possible dissemination of the information? Put your thinking caps on. If you need to take a sip of coffee, get a sip of coffee. Well, caffeine always helps. It always helps me. Why would I want to use coming soon? Or
Builds
why would I want to
enthusiasm.
use a firm exclusive listing?
Builds interest, enthusiasm.
Coming soon I'm bringing a property, a new product to market. I want some opportunity to build some enthusiasm. I get that. Absolutely. I believe in that. Larry, Ninja, too, we're taught that in Ninja. I like that. I love the idea of generating excitement. But it doesn't work for every house, does it? Some houses, though, there are houses out there it does work for. Why else would I want to either use a coming soon or a firm exclusive listing, which, by the way, requires an addendum? Why would I want to do that? I have any takers on this? Are y'all afraid to answer? But can you hear me? I don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry traipsing through my house. You go find a few buyers. My house is going to sell. I'm convinced. I got a $500,000 house, and I may be the most expensive in the neighborhood these days, but I know it's going to sell. I don't want This COVID-19 thing scares me and my family to death. My wife's got a lung condition. I don't want anybody bringing in those nasty viruses to my house. You limit the number of showings as much as possible and bring me a buyer. Does it make sense? We live in different times, folks. We have to change our mindset. I've never been a real big fan of pocket listings. I'm not a big fan of firm exclusive listings, but I understand why sellers in every price range or location might feel this way. That being said, there are some legitimate grounds today for firm exclusive listings and for coming soon. If you want to build that enthusiasm, I want a lot of people to see it, but I want you to build this thing up. I'm going to go to work and put this listing information on my bulletin board saying it be shown effective, August 1st. I want you to do that. That's a great marketing ploy, if you will, a great marketing methodology, but you got to work. You got to build that momentum up to get everybody excited about this new entry to the market. Okay, any questions about the listing agreement? Because I'm ready to, am I ready to move on? This permits us open houses, coming soon, advertising is talked about there. How are you going to access the house? We covered that. One thing here that was added, seller agrees that seller is solely responsible for securing all of their goods, valuables, and so forth. They ought to know that anyway. Any questions before we leave the listing agreement? Everybody understands the office exclusive. I'm not going to go there. And that's all the changes to the listing. Like I said, it's not a lot, but it does add up. There are important changes. Okay. Let's go next to the guidelines. I'm not going to cover. Confirmation of compensation was formatting change only. The guidelines for completing, everybody's favorite. I'm sorry, I'm about to jump ahead. We want to go all the way down to number 31. Everybody's favorite form, the one you always take to closing and fill out right there at closing. And that is the professional services disclosure and election form. Uh-oh, couldn't load it. Let's drop that.
Mike, why does it say optional that we?
Wait, we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, everybody can see it. Judy, thank you for your question. Okay, this is, like I say, everybody's favorite. Bill, you still with us? Oh, I think Bill had to leave. This is Bill's favorite form. Hates it with a passion. And everybody takes it to closing to fill out because why would I want to fill it out any sooner? Well, Judy, it used to say right here, this form is optional. But now it says, see guidelines, Form 760G for instructions on completing this form. In other words, enough firms are now requiring this form that it is no longer optional. I am changing my view of this form. I've excused agents in the past. I've, made exceptions and things. I can't do it anymore. This form is not optional anymore. In fact, we're going to have disclosure is going to become a primary issue in years to come. We always focus on those of us been in the business a while. We remember the mold scare. Well, mold is no longer a scare. It's just something you take care of. What was that? Bill had I remember one year his CE course was called The Fungus Among Us. Yeah. We no longer say that in horror. If a house has mold, no, you treat it. You go away. It goes away. But disclosure is going to become a big issue because the lawyers want it to be. There are issues in the lawsuits out there right now, disclosure, and this is not just the real estate industry. This is new home construction. This is all kinds of businesses. Disclosure is becoming a real issue. Banking, loans, we have terrible lawsuits going on with regard to disclosure. Okay. Other than that change, Judy, they didn't talk about it in the explanation, by the way. I thought they would, but they didn't. I guess they figured, take that away, it doesn't matter. So let's start out with the explanation at the top. Paragraph 1, instruction expanded to address who will order service, to clarify that the provider is selected by the buyer, and to clarify that the form may be amended to address additional professional services that may be considered after form initially signed. The list of services has been reorganized to group services related to inspection and insurance together. Pool, spa, and flood insurance have been added to the list of services. And that's a big one, because we always get this stuff about, well, I don't know anything about, my agent didn't offer me this flood insurance program elevation certificate. Now I find my lender says I live in a floodplain. We're seeing some delays. We had a delay of 3 weeks last year waiting on this certificate. And who was supposed to get that? And so basically the form, you might want to consider using this form well in advance of closing, because now are you waiving this? Have you selected this? Have it been exposed? Has it been explained to you? And who's going to order the service? For you newer agents, it's always a toss-up, because the client says, well, you'll take care of that, won't you? Judy, do you hear that a lot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you hear it a lot.
They always need help for
Well,
some
they always
reason.
need help, but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not.
When
Yeah.
they say, well, we're going to need, when the inspector says you're going to need an HVAC inspection. Well, they're moving here. They don't know anybody. Judy, who would you recommend? And basically, Judy, you're going to give and Chris, you're going to give, and Griselle, you're going to give a recommendation as to who you should call. Okay. If you know the provider, if you recommend the provider, trust me, you're going to wind up making the call. I always tell agents when I hear about this, make sure you don't give them your credit card. Otherwise, you'll wind up paying for this and you're not going to get reimbursed. Now, you might, don't get me wrong, but I would say, and especially when it comes to pool and spa, those guys want to be paid. And we only come out if you pay us in advance. Too many times they get cancellations and they don't give refunds. Septic. Septic is the big one when you get out in the county. Well, who's going to pay for that? Because that's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You got to come out there and lift the top off of the tank. It typically takes a backhoe to do it, because those guys ain't going to dig it up and take it off by hand, I promise you. So basically, who's going to order that and who's going to be responsible? And the idea here is to try, again, disclosure. Identify who's going to do it, because you get to closing and the attorney says, where's your septic inspection? Oh my gosh, by your agent or the buyer. I forgot. I went to a closing one time with another agent and she said, we forgot. Wait a minute.
We
Forget anything. I wanted to turn to her and point my finger at you. Forgot.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't close. FHA would not close the loan. And so it took 2 more weeks to get the septic tank inspected. So just be aware of that. That's all I ask. It's everybody's form that they hate. There's a new box down here. Note regarding radon and other environmental quality issues testing. In addition to testing for the presence of radon, consideration should be given to testing the air and any private drinking well water for the presence of other contaminants, including but not limited to biological, chemical, radiological contaminants. Buyer or seller should consult with an air and or water quality specialist regarding the need for and scope of any such testing. I have note that regarding the need scope of such testing. I don't remember the note here on surveys. It's a good note, worth noting. And now there's 2 asterisks, one of which has been added. So those asterisks are explained, aren't they? Or no, I think they're just noted. Basically, whether or not to get a survey, they're recommending a survey, whether the title insurance company requires it or not. So keep that in mind. I get calls about that quite frequently. Are there any questions about the professional services disclosure and election form?
Yeah, Mike, is that required for new construction as well?
Thank you, Mike. Good question. Is it required? Is this form required for new construction? Yes. And the reason being is you may have recommended a home inspector. You may have recommended a surveyor in the event the builder didn't have a current survey. You recommended a closing attorney.
I got
99%
two
of you did.
comments.
What's that?
I got two comments.
Okay, good.
The first one is they didn't put repairs.
They didn't put repairs.
I
Give
mean,
me
we
a-
can just add it in, but that's a biggie. And then also,
Okay,
why
about
in the
recommending
world-
somebody to do repairs. I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Agree.
And then, or contractor or whatever.
I
And
got
then
you. Blank space right here.
everybody's going to agree with me on this one, is they have to wait. They have to click to wait, then click to select. And sometimes you don't do anything like that for the seller, and they're clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking. Why in the world can we not select and put who ordered it
Yep.
and get their initials? This is ridiculous.
Yep.
To have somebody have to fill out this form when you didn't do anything for them that day, transaction.
Judy, you and I, you're
is-
preaching to the choir. I don't
Yeah,
think there's an agent here that wouldn't agree with you. Here's my suggestion to the forms
It's
committee.
more of a CYA type thing.
It is always about CYA. Remember who owns the contract? The broker owns the contract.
Right.
But the broker provides, in 99% of the case, the broker provides the E&O insurance. And I tell agents this: if you want to be fully insured by your E&O insurance, make damn sure you fill this out.
And I mean, I think the form is necessary.
Yep.
Definitely to cover us. But I don't like the fact that they have to click, 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 and
I could not
sometimes
agree with you
people
more.
are not savvy computer wise. And then if you sit there at closing with them, I don't do that. There's no way I'm going to do that.
Yep.
You're initialing all the way down, and it could be better. It can be so much better.
This is the one form we see filled out by hand more often than anything else. Because I know what happened. You took it to closing with you. And if I were in your shoes, I'd probably do the same thing. And they'll strike a line from here all the way down.
And so we can do it.
Well,
We can do the line.
You can now. Will that pass the E&O? Will it pass E&O under their nose? I think so.
I put the initial at the top and then the initials at the bottom, and I
all
strike.
these,
Yeah, it could
I'll
go
stand
the-
behind you.
It could go the other way too, though, Mike. I had a client who had a fence on his property, and I was like, "You have to get a survey. You have to get a survey." And he's like, "I'm not getting a survey." So I made sure I noted that he waived the survey because I didn't want him to come back later and be like,
In a case like that, Mike, I think I would do the same thing. If
Yeah.
it's something I've recommended and they're just being obstinate about it.
Then do it. Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing that gets me. This house doesn't have a pool.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
I waive it? Did I select it? If so, who ordered it? I mean, come on. This form right here would bring the most discussion. It's the one, and it's the one that Amber has to chase you the longest to get. I know that.
Can we
And
wait
my
till
heart-
the
my heart
end?
bleeds
Because,
for you.
yeah. But the new people, we wait. Angie and I wait till the end to do it.
I think you have to. Well,
You can't
So
do
wait
it
a-
at the
why-
beginning.
like I say,
But why isn't this filled out after due diligence period? Slightly after due
you
diligence.
may be making recommendations all the way up to closing.
All the way to closing.
Okay.
You find something after due diligence. And
Yeah.
It's like, well, we need to have the well tested because now the lender, we have a conventional lender based in Vermont who wants if you've got a well, even if it's a community well, it's got to be tested. Holy mackerel. I've never tested a community well. How do you do that?
No. The water.
By the way, I do know now.
Yeah.
You're covered, the firm is covered, that your client is covered. This is for their benefit too. And if they forgot to get the property insurance, we had that happen here recently. So I'm going to end the discussion on this one. And we're going to move right along now to the end. We're down almost to the end. Hang on. We may have finished it. Let's see. No changes. There's no changes in the COVID-19 addendum, which became effective March 23rd. Just want to let you know that. I'm not going to cover the guidelines. The confirmation of compensation doesn't have any changes significant. The on-site preview addendum form has not been changed. There's no changes there. Are there any questions? Anything comes to mind later, don't hesitate to come and see me about these forms. But are there any questions regarding the residential form changes? I feel like I've done my job. Now y'all have to go out and do yours. You have to go out and use them. Mike, congratulations on your latest contract. Any other questions? If there's no other business to conduct, we will conclude for the day. Again, thanks for coming out. Enjoyed your presence here. It was duly noted. There will be a recording posted, and I'll send you the link once we get that up. All right?
Thank you, Mike.
Everybody have a great day and a great week.
Thank
Talk
you.
with you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.